Hello, my name is Jim Hummer from Solver, and today we're going to be looking at doing reports with expressions, and we're going to be looking at for X series, but you can use expressions in the 5X series as well as cloud. So why use expressions? So expressions are handy if you have a multiple number of reports. You have row groupings like sales. If you want to make changes, you can make one change in expressions. It'll change in all your reports. There's some other uses for expressions, but that's what we're going to cover here. So we're going to go to our report designer, and if you know, we found the expressions right there. And so if we go to manage expressions, we're going to click on new. I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call it sales. And then click add and call this sales. And then once I've done that, I can go to my modules, into my fact sets. I can go into my dimensions, and I'm going to go to account. I'm going to say that anything that begins with a 4 is in sales. And I can add more dimensions and actual segments and so forth, and do more filterings as you normally do within a report. Call this OK, and there's my expression. Note, best practice is to export these, and so if there's a problem with it, you can report them in, so there's no save on this. They are stored in repositories, so you can back that up, but it's good, best practice to export these and to save these. So now I have that, I'm going to go into my finance module and go into actual summaries. And I'm going to drop my account string into my report, as well as my account description. Make these a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to go ahead and then drop in my measure, which is period change. And then I'm going to go down to my functions and do this period this year. So if I'm not going to quite run this yet. So now I need to filter my row. So if I go to my row, I have the filter my account string, but I'm going to delete that and then go to my expressions and then drag my expression in. So you notice this brings in my expression that I set before, and notice I cannot modify that unless I go to edit tree, and I can go to that, or you can go back to the expressions here. So now if I run this and put in my periods and then run my report, this shows me all my accounts that begin and start with 4. Okay. So if I drill on this, this is going to give me all my detail. And you notice it's basically querying that whole fact set, so there's a lot of data in there, so it takes longer to do. And it's a little bit cumbersome to read through all this. So it's like, once I've done that, can I finite that? And you can. And so what we're going to do is go to that measure, and we should see a little thing called drill to. So what I can do is go and create. And I can call this sales if I want, if I have different drill twos, but I can also just call it detail. So here I have fields that are in the drill to, and then I have my filters below. So this is kind of backwards to what a lot of other tools are, but that's the way it is. So we're going to go to our detailed fact set, and we're going to bring in our account string and our account description, and what else are we going to bring in here? Let's bring in our journal entry and our description and then our transaction date right here, and then our measure. Okay, that's what we want to see. And we can bring in more data, but it all has to be off of this one module. You cannot cross modules at all. Now that we've done that, let's put in our filters. So I'm going to make a little more room here. And I'm going to bring in my account. So why do I bring in my account? Well, actually, let's bring in the account string. So why do we bring in the account string? It's because basically the count string is what we dragged into the report. So it's what's in the groupings. Even though we delete it in the filter, it's still in the groupings. So this is my select to, my map to mapping. So if I click on this and then click in there, see it brings in what's called drill source. So the drill source makes it reactive and dynamic. So if I change things, whatever, it's going to recognize what that number is. And then the other thing I'm going to bring in is my posting periods. If I go up here into my parameter, it's going to bring in my posting periods. Now, if you have different functions like year to date, you can put period syntax in there. So that will not be dynamic. It basically is by column. So this is by row and it is dynamic. So let's click OK. And there is my detailed drill to. And so now I'm going to go and then run this. And there's my amount. And now I can go here and I can see my drill to. And see how much faster that ran. And also is a lot more condensed. It's easier to read. But it still has the same functionality that I did before. Okay. Alright, so that's how you do the custom drill to. So let's actually create another. So I could copy the row, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to create a new row. And well, actually what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my expressions, and I'm going to manage my expressions, and I'm going to create another one, and we're going to do cost of goods sold. I'm going to go add, and then call this just like we did before. And we're going to set this up very similar to what we did before. And we're going to bring in my account. And this begins with 5. Okay, so I have a sales and cost of goods. Notice that these sort alphabetically, so if you want them in a certain order, you have to put numerics in front to control that. Okay, so let's go ahead and then create our new row. So we're going to go into actuals, and again we're going to drop in our account string, and then we're going to drop in our account string dimension, our account description rather, and then we're going to go ahead and drop in our measure, and that's down here and under my period change. I don't need to do a period function because it's on the column, but what I need to do now is go to my expressions and then do my cost of goods sold, and I'm going to bring in my layout editor here and go into row 11, and there's my filter. So I'm going to delete this like we did before and bring in my cost of goods sold. Okay. So now when I run this, I have my 4s and my 5s. Now if I right click on this, notice I do not have my drill to. So if I want to do that, I can recreate it, or what I can do is click on my measure and then go to my drill to definitions and then click on my drill to, and then just drop this into the system. And so if I edit this, you can see it's exactly the same thing I had before. So I could have copy pasted that and it would have included it, So you can copy paste or you can just drag 2 into the cell. Okay. So now if I run this, I can go down to my 5s and I can right click and there's my drill 2 detail right there. So now what happens if I want to do some changes? So if I want to go to my design, if I want to go to my expressions, and if I want to go to my sales, and I want to change something. So let's say I want to have not only my account begins with 4, but my division, let's actually do the department. And go to my department equals only 1s, 0 1s. Okay? So before it showed all the 4s. So now if I close this and then run this, you can see now it did that extra filter. So if I had 10 reports, I did that filter, it would affect 10 different reports, but all because I made that one change in the expressions. So that includes my presentation on expressions and then also custom drill 2 within BI360. Thank you.